Assalamu alaikum. A very beautiful morning to everyone. Today we'll be looking into The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, a classic fantasy novel. You could see it as a precursor to all other contemporary novels, contemporary fantasy fiction, because you see traces of the elves, the dwarves, the goblins in all of these. And in turn, Tolkien himself was greatly influenced by the Celtic mythologies he was a scholar of. So most of those derivations of most of his characters names or their characteristic traits have been derived from those the ancient Germanic tribes mythologies. So Hobbit itself sort of lays the groundwork for the subsequent novels written by Tolkien, the seven books of the Lord of the Rings, or the Silmarillion, or the other unfinished tales that was posthumously published. All of these have the like have their seed in Hobbit, because the realm, the universe, the fictional universe that Tolkien created, the universe of Ea, comprises of several regions, planets, with varied cast of creatures, with distinct genealogy, with varied traits, very distinctive. Each one is distinct from the other, and and the histories are made to be so complicated and rich. So when you see The Hobbit in itself, it sort of lays the groundwork. It's kind of an introductory part for all the other novels that come later on. So we will be dealing only, we won't be going into the geographical classification of the diverse areas of the universe of Ea, but only the Middle Earth. Middle Earth is kind of representative of our own Earth that we inhabit. And in the Middle Earth, you would be looking into this one Hobbiton called the Bag End, where we first find our protagonist, Bilbo Baggins. Now, Bilbo Baggins is a hobbit, just like any other, happy to live his own little life in his own little hole, a literal hole, because hobbits build their houses underground and can be accessed only through a small hole. And hobbits generally are very short, about 3.5 foot, stout, very hairy, foot that does not require shoes, and love to have a peaceful life with no intrusion from outsiders, with very little interaction with any other creature except hobbits, except for their own kind, and ultimately want to have their larder full of food. Well, we all love food, but hobbits are obsessive about keeping their stock full. So, Bilbo Baggins has this peaceful life, which is interrupted by the visit of this wizard called Gandalf. Now, Gandalf is a stereotypical mentor that you find in most novels, most books. There'd be the main protagonist, and the protagonist is struggling through various tasks, and he or she has to go through the fire to transform and become someone brave or strong, or develop certain heroic qualities. And through all of it, there would be one guiding force, this one mentor. It's a typical trope. And this mentor here would be the wizard Gandalf. Now, he seems to show that he knows more, but says little, very mysterious. Well, of course, it grabs your attention. So Gandalf and ropes him into becoming one of the company of dwarves who are going on a quest, the quest to reclaim their own land, or the land would not be the right term. They are going back to get their treasures under the Lonely Mountains, which has been stolen, or which has been taken over by this fire breathing dragon called Smog. Now, Bilbo is reluctant, he is hesitant. In fact, he outright, at the initial stage, he refuses to go with them, but then gradually, somehow, he makes up his mind and joins them on this quest. And here you see several people, starting with the dwarf Thorin. Thorin Oakenshield is supposed to be the heir of the Lonely Mountains and the treasures that go with it, and which has been stolen by Smog. Okay, I'm just being repetitive here. The idea is that Thorin is the dwarf who is obsessed about getting back his treasures, and he is accompanied by a varied cast of dwarfs. You have Philly, Killy, um, Dwalin, Balin, Owen, Gloin, Ori, Dori, Nori, Bifur, Buffer, Bumper. I know it sounds a little weird when I say it, but yes, they are all very distinct dwarfs, and each one has, and there are certain similarities of kinship, like two cousins play the same kind of instrument, or have this, wear the same kind of clothes, or have the same kind of interests somehow. So even though their names sort of rhyme or sound like a nursery rhyme, they do have well defined characters. So they, as a company, start together and end up getting into all sorts of adventures. So initially, they trapped by the trolls. The trolls are quite strong, powerful, but they are tricked into coming out in the sunlight where they get burnt, and eventually both Gandalf and Thorin, they both get swords, a magical swords, but and Bilbo ends up getting a small sword for himself, along with a key. Then they come across Elrond, the Elven King at Rivendell, who is kind of nice and advises them and guides them to go to the Misty Mountains. At the Misty Mountains, they take shelter in a cave to protect themselves from the snowstorm, and once again fall into the hands of goblins. Goblins are fierce creatures and they take them prisoners. Gandalf saves them all out but leaves Bilbo behind. Bilbo now is friendless and he is totally clueless as to what to do. So he's just roaming the caves and happens to come across this small ring. He is fascinated by the ring, he looks at it, pockets it, and then he stumbles upon a creature called Gollum. Gollum is quite popular because Gollum features in Lord of the Rings as well. So Gollum is supposed to have been roaming the caves for ages, for an eternity, because he has become immortal because of this magical ring, and he calls this ring my precious. So he is almost half mad. He hates himself, he hates the ring, and he is obsessed with living. He does not want to die and loves the ring because of it. And he doesn't want to part with the ring, and it makes him crazy. So, living under the caverns, he's just been fishing and eating goblins or whatnot. And the main power of the ring is that it would render the bearer invisible. So Gollum has been looking for the ring, and Bilbo unknowingly possesses it and somehow escapes using the ring from Gollum. Yeah, initially there's a riddle that they have to solve. I mean, Bilbo has to solve, and in turn Bilbo asks a riddle, and well, long story short, Bilbo escapes the caverns. Then they are overtaken by the wargs. Wargs. The wargs are the evil wolves. But then once again, they are saved by giant eagles and Bjorn. Bjorn is basically a man who has the power to transform into a bear. So they are saved by the giant eagles and the Bjorn. Then they enter the dark forest of Mirkwood and fall into the webs of giant spiders. Well, creepy. Now, to escape the giant spiders, they have to run hither thither, and Bilbo makes his first kill here. So he takes this little sword and slices open the first spider. And that's why and then like he's so happy about it that he calls his sword Sting. He names his sword. Well, a very old trope. Then there are wood elves, mm, who capture the dwarfs once again, and Bilbo saves them. So see, gradually you see the transformation. How Bilbo is helpless initially, he is very timid, unable to protect himself. Gradually he starts taking initiative when he is left alone, when he is all by himself. He somehow escapes, and that gives him a little bit of confidence. And then once again, when they fall into danger, once again Bilbo uses his sword. First he uses wit, the next time he uses sword, and then he eventually there is a transformation going on. Bit by bit, each task makes him stronger and wiser, more intellectually capable. He starts trusting himself, believing himself a bit, and also he needs to believe that without the cooperation of his friends, without the guidance of his mentor, whether it be Gandalf or whether it be Elrond, he is he is still weak. No matter how much heroic you are, without the sidekicks, no hero can survive. That's the idea here. I mean, that's the picture I see here. So the wood elves, they capture the dwarves once again, but Bilbo saves them by hiding them all in the barrels and pushing them into the river, and well, ultimately they all end up in the lake town. Lake town is inhabited by men, and that is humans, and which is like sort of close to the Lonely Mountains, where the dragon resides with the treasure. The Lonely Mountains, I hope you remember, belongs to Thorin, right? That is their ultimate aim. That's their destination. That's where they're going. So the dragon is guarding the treasure, and Bilbo and his company, they um, well, they try to enter it. Bilbo is supposed to be the burglar, the thief that steals the treasure. So Bilbo first gets into the Lonely Mountains and tries to talk to Smog. Somehow he, with his wit, oh, it's funny how he has become, intellectually able now. So Bilbo coaxes Smog or tricks Smog into revealing his vulnerable spot, because this this Smog is a huge dragon with very tough scales, impenetrable scales, and no one can kill him. And able to talk, and is also very highly intellectual. So it is a difficult task for Bilbo to trick Smog into revealing his weakness, which is overheard by a thrush, and the thrush communicates it to the bard. The bard here is a person living in the lake town. The bard is an arrow man. Okay, he uses his arrow. Okay, fine. First of all, Bilbo convinces or tricks the dragon to reveal his secret. Once the secret is revealed, he steals a cup, coaxing the dragon out of his lair. Once the dragon comes out, the bard hits the vulnerable spot and immediately kills the dragon. But before being shot down, the dragon had breathed fire over the entire lake town and burnt it to ashes. So anyway, ultimately Thorin, he gets his treasure back, his mountain back, but at great cost of uh, great damage to the elven people and to the men. So they all come back asking for compensation. They need a share in the treasure. Thorin could have been fair. He could have shared his treasure with them, because ultimately, to get his treasure, he has hurt so many people. But he refuses to do so. He is overtaken by greed. And a fight is about to ensue, and Bilbo tries to intervene and make peace, but it does not really happen that way. because the goblins and the wargs are on their way to lay siege to the Lonely Mountains. So, to protect themselves, the elves, the men, and the dwarfs, they all band together to fight. Well, the fight goes on, and they are helped by all the and the eagles and the beyond and all that, and ultimately the good side wins. Here, what you see is after the battle, when everything is fine, the elves and the dwarves, they reluctantly have come to a peaceful agreement. Bilbo and Gandalf, they return to the Hobbiton, to Back End. Now Bilbo is transformed, so the other hobbits, they do not really mingle well with him, but Bilbo does not really mind it that much, because to him, what matters is that he has seen the world outside his little hole, and he is changed, and he's happy for the change. And it does not matter to him whether the other hobbits accept him or not. What matters to him is the great friends he has made over his journey, um, the lessons he has learned, his self knowledge of his own self perception has transformed him a great deal. So it's mainly about Bilbo's personal growth, the political tensions, and Thorin's obsession. These could be considered as the main subplots. And when you look at it and critically look at it, you would find that a whole new universe with which is really rich in terms of description. It's a very complex fantasy, complete with own languages, history, cultures. So that's why it is an epic. A couple of themes you may want to look into: heroism and bravery, power of friendship and cooperation, corrupting influence of greed. Yeah, well, this is the visual slide I added to show you the images of the several movies. Well, I guess that's about it. I hope you have a great time learning. Thank you.